My name is Grace, and at 34 years old, I never imagined that a single email would shatter everything I believed about my family. It was 7:43 in the morning, just 3 hours before we were supposed to gather for my mother's 5th death anniversary memorial. I was making coffee in my small apartment kitchen when my phone buzzed with a notification. Anonymous sender. Subject line, "Watch this video. You need to see this before today. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from. If you've ever discovered a family secret that changed everything, please like and subscribe to hear how I survived the ultimate betrayal." You know, growing up in suburban Connecticut, I thought we had the perfect family. My father, Robert, was this successful investment banker who always made sure we had everything we needed. He worked long hours but never missed a school play or soccer game. My mother, Linda, was the heart of our home, the kind of woman who baked cookies for the entire neighborhood and remembered everyone's birthday. She had this way of making you feel like you were the most important person in the world when she talked to you. My older brother, Michael, was the golden child, and I mean that without any bitterness, or at least I used to. He graduated from Yale Law School, married Jennifer, who came from old money, and they had 2 beautiful children who attended the most exclusive private school in Greenwich. Then there was my younger sister, Emma, the baby of the family. She was spoiled, sure, but she had this sweetness about her that made it impossible not to love her. She married David, a tech entrepreneur who sold his first startup for 8 figures before he turned 30. And then there was me, the middle child, the teacher. While my siblings chased fortune and status, I followed my heart into education. I loved working with kids, watching their faces light up when they finally understood a difficult concept. My parents always said they were proud of me, that teachers shaped the future. But looking back now, I can see the subtle disappointment in their eyes when they introduced me at country club events. Everything changed 5 years ago when Mom got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. The doctor gave her 18 months, but we only got 11. Those 11 months transformed me from daughter to caregiver, from sister to nurse, from teacher to the family member who gave up everything. I still remember the family meeting after her diagnosis. We gathered in Dad's study, all dark wood and leather chairs. Michael cleared his throat and said his caseload at the firm was overwhelming, that making partner required 100-hour weeks. Emma started crying, saying her kids needed stability, that disrupting their routine would be traumatic. David nodded along, mentioning some critical phase of his new company. And Dad said his business obligations couldn't be postponed, that someone needed to keep the money flowing for Mom's treatments. So it fell to me, the teacher with summers off and a flexible schedule, the single one without a family of her own, the one whose career was just teaching, not real work like the others had. I moved back home within a week, gave up my apartment in Hartford, the cozy 1-bedroom with exposed brick walls and a reading nook by the window where I graded papers every Sunday morning. I took indefinite leave from my job at the middle school, where I had just been promoted to department head. My principal understood, she said, but they would need to fill my position if I was gone more than a semester. Those 11 months became my entire world. I slept on a cot in Mom's room, waking every 2 hours to check her pain medication. I learned to administer IV drips, change colostomy bags, monitor oxygen levels. I became fluent in medical terminology, memorizing drug interactions and side effects. I spent so many nights in the hospital that the cafeteria staff knew my order by heart. Large black coffee, no sugar, and a blueberry muffin when they had them fresh. My siblings visited, of course. Michael would stop by Sunday evenings for exactly 1 hour, always checking his phone, always having to leave for an urgent call. Emma came twice a week with her children, but they were only allowed in Mom's room for 15 minutes because Emma worried about germs and trauma. The kids would stand awkwardly by the door while Emma chatted about her Pilates class or the new restaurant David had invested in. Dad maintained his travel schedule, flying to Tokyo, London, Singapore. "Business doesn't stop for cancer," he would say, and Mom would nod understanding, even though I could see the hurt in her eyes. During those final months, it was just Mom and me most of the time. We watched old movies together. I read her favorite books aloud when her eyes got too tired. We looked through photo albums from when we were kids. She would squeeze my hand during the bad nights and whisper that I was her angel, that she didn't know what she would do without me. I held her hand when she died. It was 3:16 in the morning on a Tuesday in March. The others arrived within the hour, tears and dramatics, and Michael already on the phone with the funeral director about arrangements. But I was the one who had been there when her breathing changed, when her eyes looked past me to something I couldn't see when she squeezed my hand one last time. After the funeral, after the reception, with the catered food and the sympathy cards and the flowers that made me nauseous, my siblings went back to their lives. Michael made partner 2 months later. Emma posted photos from their summer house in the Hamptons. Dad threw himself into work, opening a new branch of his investment firm. And me, I tried to return to teaching, but my position had been filled. The principal offered me substitute work, apologetic, but practical. I took it grateful for any income, but substitute teaching pays barely above minimum wage. I found a small apartment 40 minutes from the school, the kind with thin walls and a radiator that clanged all night. I worked 3 part-time jobs to make rent. Tutoring in the evenings, retail on weekends, online test grading late into the night. The family noticed my struggles, or at least they pretended to. Dad would pat my shoulder at family dinners and tell me money wasn't everything, that I was rich in purpose. Michael would mention teacher loan forgiveness programs like I hadn't already applied and been rejected. Emma would offer me her designer cast-offs, 2 seasons old, but still with tags as if wearing Prada would pay my electric bill. Every year on the anniversary of Mom's death, we gathered at the family home for a memorial. Dad would make a speech about Linda's legacy. Michael would read a poem, Emma would arrange flowers from Mom's favorite florist. And I would cook her recipes, the ones she taught me during those long months when cooking was one of the few things that still brought her joy. This year was supposed to be the same. The 5th anniversary Dad had said was important. A milestone. The whole family needed to be there. He had texted me 3 times this week to make sure everything would be perfect. The right flowers, the right food, the right atmosphere to honor Mom's memory. I was reviewing his latest text, reminding me to use the good china, when that anonymous email arrived. 7:43 a.m., 3 hours before I was supposed to leave for the family home. The subject line seemed to pulse on my screen. Watch this video. You need to see this before today. My finger hovered over the delete button. It was probably spam, some phishing attempt or virus. But something made me hesitate. Maybe it was the timing. Maybe it was the specific reference to today. Maybe it was just instinct. I clicked on it. The email opened to a simple message. No greeting, no signature, just 2 lines of text. You deserve to know the truth. They're planning something bigger today. Below the text was a video attachment, the thumbnail black except for a timestamp in the corner. I sat down at my small kitchen table, the one I had bought from a thrift store, and painted white to make my apartment feel less dingy. My coffee grew cold as I stared at the screen. The rational part of my brain, the teacher part that was always careful and logical, said to delete it immediately. But the daughter part, the part that had spent 11 months watching my mother slip away while my family found excuses to be elsewhere, that part clicked play. The video quality was grainy but clear enough. Security footage from a hospital corridor, the timestamp in the corner reading March 10th, 2:17 a.m. I recognized it immediately. The hallway outside Mom's room at Connecticut General. 5 days before she died. I watched my father appear in the frame, not in his usual crisp suit, but in jeans and a sweater, looking around furtively before entering Mom's room. Michael followed seconds later, carrying what looked like a briefcase. Then Emma dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, but her face determined. Jennifer and David positioned themselves in the hallway like sentries, David checking his phone while Jennifer watched both directions. The video switched to another angle, this one showing partially into Mom's room through the small window in the door. The audio was muffled but audible if I turned the volume all the way up and held the phone to my ear. My father's voice came first, that authoritative tone I knew so well. Linda, sweetheart, we need you to sign some papers. Just routine stuff for the estate planning. Mom's voice was weak, confused. The morphine made her foggy, but not foggy enough. Why now? Why are all of you here? Where's Grace? She's sleeping at home, Emma said quickly. We didn't want to wake her. She's been so tired lately. That was a lie. I was in the cafeteria getting coffee. They had waited until my regular break, the one I took every night at 2:15, when the night nurse came to check Mom's vitals. They had been watching me, timing me, planning this. Michael's voice lawyer, smooth and practiced. These documents will simplify everything, Mom. Power of attorney adjustments, some changes to the will to avoid probate complications. Standard stuff that needs your signature. I could hear papers rustling, Mom struggling to focus. This says Grace gets nothing. That can't be right. She gave up everything to take care of me. Dad's response made my stomach clench. Grace doesn't have a family to support Linda. She doesn't have the same financial obligations as Michael and Emma. She'll be fine with the sentimental items, the photo albums, your jewelry. Those things matter more to her than money anyway. But she lost her job, Mom protested weakly. She's been here every day, every night. Michael cut in, his voice taking on an edge. She chose to be a teacher, Mom. That was her choice. Just like staying here was her choice. Emma and I have real expenses. Private schools, mortgages, investment obligations. Emma was crying now, but her words were clear. We have children to think about, Mom. Their futures, their education. Grace will understand. She always understands. I watched my mother's hand shaking as she held the pen. Dad's hand covering hers, guiding it to the signature line. She was crying two silent tears that I had wiped away so many times but wasn't there to catch that night. Sign here, Linda, Dad instructed. And here. Initial here. The video jumped to another date. March 12th, 2 days later. Mom was barely conscious by then, the cancer spreading to her brain. A man in an expensive suit sat beside her bed with more papers. Gregory Walters, the family estate attorney. I remembered that day. Dad had sent me to pick up a prescription that the hospital pharmacy somehow didn't have, requiring me to drive 40 minutes to a specialty pharmacy. By the time I got back, Gregory was gone and Mom was sleeping. The new will was being finalized, Gregory saying into his phone as he left the room. Complete disinheritance, except for personal effects of negligible monetary value. The Morrison Children's Trust has been dissolved and redistributed. Michael receives the investment portfolio, roughly $3.2 million. Emma gets the real estate holdings valued at $2.8 million. Robert retains the business interests and primary residence. The final clip was dated March 20th, 3 days after Mom's funeral. The family was gathered in Dad's study, the same room where we had made decisions about Mom's care. I wasn't there. They had told me it would be too painful to discuss Mom's affairs so soon, that I should recover from my months of caregiving. The video showed them clearly, their grief seemingly evaporated, replaced with business-like efficiency. Michael had spreadsheets laid out on the desk. Emma was taking notes on her phone. Jennifer and David sat on the leather couch, David with a laptop open, already managing the assets they knew were coming. We need to manage Grace's expectations, Dad was saying. She's going to ask about the will eventually. Michael nodded, shuffling papers. I've prepared a list of Mom's personal items that we can give her. The jewelry box, the china she always admired, the photograph albums, her recipe collection. Things that will feel meaningful, but have no real value. Emma added, we should space it out too. Don't give her everything at once. Make it feel like we're being thoughtful, taking time to go through Mom's things carefully. Jennifer spoke up, her voice cutting. What if she asks about money directly? She's already been hinting about her financial situation. Then we redirect, Dad said simply. Remind her that Mom's love wasn't about money, that she was Mom's angel, that those months together were priceless. Grace is emotional. She'll accept that narrative if we all stick to it. David laughed, actually laughed. Besides, what's she going to do? Sue us. With what money she can barely make rent. The video had one more segment, a conversation between Michael and Dad from just last week. They were in Dad's home office discussing today's memorial. The foundation announcement is ready, Michael said. The Linda Morrison Foundation for Cancer Families. Grace will be perfect as the volunteer director. It'll give her purpose, make her feel included without actually costing us anything. Dad smiled that same smile he used to give me when I brought home straight A's in elementary school. And we get tax breaks while looking like philanthropists. Your mother would be mortified, but she's not here to object, is she? No, Michael agreed. And Grace will never know the truth. She's too trusting, too grateful for whatever scraps we throw her. Tomorrow's memorial will cement everything. After 5 years, even if she found out, it would be too late to contest anything legally. The video ended with a black screen and a single line of text. Check your mother's email drafts. The truth is there too. Then, the password is your childhood dog's name and your birthday. My hands shook as I set down my phone. Bailey, 0414. Of course I knew it. I had helped Mom set it up when she first got email back when she was healthy, and just wanted to see photos of Emma's kids. I opened my laptop with trembling fingers, typing in Mom's email address, the password sliding from my memory like it had been waiting. The drafts folder had 17 unsent emails, all addressed to me, dated from those final weeks. The first one made me sob aloud in my empty kitchen. My dearest Grace, if you're reading this, something has happened that I couldn't prevent. Your father and siblings have been pressuring me to change my will. They come at night when you're on your coffee break. They think I don't understand because of the medication, but I do. I'm trying to resist, but I'm so weak and they're so insistent. You should know that my original, the real one, left everything equally. More than that, I set aside an additional amount just for you, because I knew you would be the one to care for me. I knew you would sacrifice everything. The account number is, but the email was never finished. She had fallen asleep or been interrupted, and by the next draft dated 2 days later, her typing was erratic, confused. Gracie, my angel, they made me sign things. Dad held my hand. Made me do it. Michael said it was for the best. Emma cried, but she signed as witness. You were getting coffee. You're always so tired, my sweet girl. I wanted to leave you everything for what you've done, but they said you don't need it. That teachers don't need money like lawyers do. That's not true, is it? You need things too. You gave up your apartment, your job. That nice boy who wanted to marry you, but you said you couldn't leave me. I remember, even if they think I don't. The third draft was just fragments, her mind slipping from the cancer or the increased morphine they had probably requested. Grace, help me. They won't let me call you. Said you're sleeping. Not true. You never sleep. Always watching me. Always here. Money doesn't matter, they say. But you have no money. I see you counting coins for coffee. Wearing same clothes. Getting thinner. They don't see. Don't care. Their cars cost more than you make in years. Not fair. Not right. My will was different before. You were equal. More than equal. Now nothing. Can't fix it. Hands won't work. They guide my hand. Make me sign. I'm sorry. So sorry. Please forgive me. Please know I fought. Please know I love you most. Always loved you most. You're the only one who loved me back without calculating the value. I read through all 17 drafts, each one more fragmented than the last, documenting my mother's anguish as she was systematically stripped of her ability to protect me. The final draft was dated March 15th, the day she died. Just 5 words. Grace, my angel, I'm sorry. I sat in my kitchen as the morning sun climbed higher, illuminating the water stains on my ceiling, the secondhand furniture, the stack of overdue bills I had been trying to ignore. 3 hours had passed. The memorial was starting in 30 minutes. My phone buzzed with texts. From Dad. Where are you? Everything should be set up by now. From Michael, don't be late. Important announcement today. From Emma. Are you bringing Mom's chocolate cake? The kids are expecting it. I looked at the cake I had baked last night, staying up until 2 a.m. to get the frosting just right the way Mom had taught me. 3 layers of chocolate with raspberry filling her favorite. Made with ingredients I couldn't afford, but bought anyway because it was her memorial. Another email arrived from the anonymous sender. I have more evidence if you need it. Financial records showing asset transfers before probate. Security footage of them celebrating at a restaurant the night after the funeral. Phone recordings of them discussing how to handle you. You deserve justice. Your mother deserves justice. I stood up steady now, the shaking replaced with something harder, colder. I forwarded all the videos and emails to my personal cloud storage, then to a lawyer friend from college who did pro bono work. Then I picked up the chocolate cake, grabbed my keys, and headed to my car. The 40-minute drive to the family home felt both endless and instant. I played the audio from the video through my car speakers, memorizing every word, every inflection, every casual cruelty. By the time I pulled into the circular driveway parking my ancient Honda Civic between Michael's new Tesla and Emma's Range Rover, I had made my decision. They thought I was weak because I was kind. They thought I was stupid because I was trusting. They thought I was worthless because I chose teaching over wealth. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I walked through the front door carrying Mom's chocolate cake, my phone fully charged in my pocket, the videos queued up and ready. The house smelled like lilies, Mom's favorite flower, the arrangements probably costing more than my monthly rent. I could hear voices in the garden, laughter, the clink of champagne glasses. The memorial for a woman they had betrayed while she was dying. The celebration of a life they had dishonored for money. The performance of grief by those who had caused her final anguish. I set the cake on the kitchen counter, smoothed my 5-year-old dress, the same one I had worn to her funeral, because I couldn't afford anything new, and walked into the garden where my family was waiting. The garden was transformed into what looked like a society event rather than a memorial. White roses everywhere, probably $5,000 worth at least. A string quartet playing softly in the corner, champagne flowing from an elaborate fountain. The neighbors were all there, the country club crowd, Dad's business associates. This wasn't just a memorial, it was a networking event using my mother's memory as the excuse. Michael stood near the podium in a suit that probably cost more than I made in 3 months, Jennifer beside him in a black dress that screamed designer. Their children, my nephew and niece, were dressed like tiny adults, standing stiffly like they had been coached. Emma floated through the crowd in flowing silk, David's hand possessively on her lower back as he worked the crowd, probably scouting for investors. Dad saw me first, his face shifting from practiced sorrow to irritation. Grace finally. We were about to start without you. Did you bring the cake? I nodded, not trusting my voice yet. The cake's in the kitchen. Emma glided over air, kissing my cheek. Oh, Grace, you look exhausted. Have you been sleeping? Your dress? She trailed off, her meaning clear. My appearance was an embarrassment to them, even at our mother's memorial. I've been working, I said simply. 3 jobs, remember? Not everyone married money. She flinched but recovered quickly. Well, Michael has exciting news that might help with that. A position that would be perfect for you. I bet he does. I thought, remembering the video, the foundation scheme, the plan to use me for tax breaks while paying me nothing. Dad clinked his champagne glass, calling everyone to attention. Thank you all for coming to honor Linda on this, the 5th anniversary of her passing. We gather not in sadness, but in celebration of a life well lived, a woman who taught us all about love, generosity, and family values. Family values. The words tasted like acid in my mouth. Dad continued his speech, painting a picture of the devoted family who had surrounded Mom with love during her illness. He talked about Michael's strength, Emma's compassion, his own steadfast support. He mentioned me once briefly as the daughter who had helped with daily care. Helped. As if I hadn't given up everything. As if I hadn't been the only one there. When Dad finished, Michael took the podium. He had note cards. Of course, he did everything planned and scripted like a court proceeding. Today, we're proud to announce the creation of the Linda Morrison Foundation for Cancer Families. This foundation will provide support and resources for families navigating the cancer journey, ensuring no one faces this challenge alone. The crowd murmured appreciatively. Someone started to clap. Michael held up his hand, warming to his moment. We've already secured significant initial funding, he said, not mentioning it was Mom's money they had stolen from me. and we're thrilled to announce that my sister Grace has agreed to serve as the volunteer executive director. Her experience caring for our mother makes her uniquely qualified to lead this mission of love. All eyes turned to me. Emma smiled encouragingly. Dad nodded like it was already decided. The crowd waited for my grateful acceptance of this honor, this chance to work for free while they collected tax benefits and social accolades. I stood up slowly, my phone in my hand. Thank you, Michael. Before I accept this generous offer, I'd like to share something with all of you. This morning I received a video that I think everyone here should see. It's about family values, the kind my father just mentioned. Dad's face went pale. Michael started toward me. Grace, I don't think— No, Michael, I said loudly, clearly. You don't think. You never have. You didn't think about what it would do to Mom when you forced her to sign those papers. You didn't think about how it would destroy her to know her children were vultures circling her deathbed. The garden went silent except for the wind in the roses. I connected my phone to the outdoor speaker system Dad had installed for his garden parties. The video started to play. Mom's voice filled the garden, weak and confused. Where's Grace? Why are all of you here? Then Dad's voice, cold and calculating. Grace doesn't have a family to support. She doesn't have the same financial obligations. Michael's voice, dismissive and cruel. She chose to be a teacher, Mom. That was her choice. Emma's voice, fake tears and real greed. We have children to think about. Grace will understand. The video played on. Every word, every manipulation, every moment of my mother's final betrayal echoed through the perfect garden. The neighbors stood frozen. The string quartet had stopped playing. Jennifer was frantically trying to usher her children inside, but they stood transfixed, hearing their parents' true voices for perhaps the first time. When the video reached the part about the foundation about using me for tax breaks, while paying me nothing, several of Dad's business associates began to edge toward the garden gate. When it played David laughing about me not having money to sue them, Emma started to sob, real tears this time. Dad lunged for my phone, but I stepped back, letting the video continue. The part where they called me too trusting, too grateful for scraps, too stupid to figure it out. When it finished, the silence was deafening. Then Mrs. Patterson, Mom's best friend from the garden club, spoke up. Linda told me she was worried about Grace. She said you all were pressuring her. I thought it was the medication talking. Dr. Foster, who had been Dad's golf partner for 20 years, set down his champagne glass with disgust. Financial elder abuse is a felony, Robert. Did you know that Michael tried to salvage the situation, his lawyer instincts kicking in? This is clearly taken out of context. We were protecting Mom's wishes. I pulled up the email drafts on my phone, projecting them onto the white wall Dad used for outdoor movie nights. Mom's words, broken and desperate, begging for help, documenting their coercion, appeared in giant letters for everyone to read. Grace, help me. They won't let me call you. They made me sign things. Dad held my hand. You gave up everything. Your job. That nice boy who wanted to marry you. My will was different before. You were equal. More than equal. Now nothing. Emma collapsed into a chair, her sobs turning to hyperventilation. David stood frozen, calculating the social damage, the business implications. Michael had his phone out, probably texting his law partners, trying to get ahead of the story. But I wasn't done. I've spent the last 3 hours on the phone with attorneys, I announced. Pro bono attorneys who specialize in elder abuse and estate fraud. We have the original will, the one where Mom left me an equal share plus additional compensation for caregiving. We have evidence of undue influence, coercion, and fraud. Criminal charges are being filed tomorrow morning. Michael found his voice. You can't prove anything. Those documents were legally executed by a dying woman on morphine who was coerced in the middle of the night when her primary caregiver was deliberately sent away. I think a jury will find that very interesting, Michael. Especially when they learn about your law license and the ethics violations you've committed. The state bar is going to be very interested in this video. Dad tried one last manipulation. Grace, you're upset, I understand. But we're family. Your mother wouldn't want this. I laughed, actually laughed. Mom spent her last days trying to protect me from you. Her final words to me were that I was her angel. She died knowing you had betrayed both of us, and you want to invoke her memory to protect yourselves. I looked around the garden at the shocked faces, the disgust directed at my family, the sympathy directed at me. Then I made my announcement. I'm suing for the return of my rightful inheritance, plus damages for fraud, emotional distress, and lost wages. Michael will likely be disbarred. Dad's business is about to be investigated for financial crimes. And this foundation you announced, it's going to be investigated for tax fraud before it even starts. But here's my offer. I continued looking at each of them. Full restoration of my inheritance as outlined in Mom's original will. Additional compensation for the income I lost during caregiving. A public acknowledgement of what you did. You have 48 hours to accept. Otherwise, every news outlet in Connecticut will have this video by Monday morning. Michael's political aspirations, Emma's social standing, Dad's business reputation, all gone. The garden erupted. Neighbors pulled out phones recording everything. Dad's business partners headed for the exits. The string quartet packed up their instruments. Within minutes, the perfect memorial had become a crime scene. Jennifer grabbed her children and ran for their car. David followed already on the phone with what sounded like a divorce attorney. Emma tried to approach me, mascara streaming down her face, but I held up my hand. Not today, Emma. You made your choice in that hospital room. You chose money over morality. Live with it. The next 24 hours were a blur of legal documents and desperate phone calls. Michael tried threatening me with a countersuit for defamation until his law firm called to inform him he was suspended pending investigation. The video had somehow made its way to the senior partners, probably via one of the horrified guests at the memorial. Dad attempted the emotional manipulation route, leaving voicemails about how Mom would be heartbroken to see the family destroyed. But Mom was heartbroken when she died, knowing her family had betrayed her for money. His tears were 5 years too late. Emma sent text after text, each more desperate than the last. David had left her. Apparently, his assets were all in his name, and he wanted to distance himself from the scandal before it affected his business. She was staying with a friend, her children confused and scared. Part of me felt sorry for them, my niece and nephew, innocent casualties of their parents' greed. But I couldn't save everyone, and I had spent too many years putting others first. By Monday morning, my lawyer, Patricia Winters, a friend from college who had become a successful attorney specializing in elder abuse cases, had filed all the necessary paperwork. She had taken the case pro bono initially, but assured me that the settlement would more than cover her fees. The evidence was overwhelming. The security footage showed clear coercion. The email drafts documented Mom's mental anguish and attempts to resist. The original will, which Patricia had found properly filed but mysteriously overlooked by the executor, Michael proved fraud. The financial records showed assets transferred before probate was completed, another crime. But the real damage came from an unexpected source. The anonymous sender revealed themselves. It was Marcus, a security guard at the hospital, who had noticed the unusual late-night visits to Mom's room. He had been suspicious when the family requested certain footage be deleted, so he made copies. He had also recorded conversations in the hallway on his phone, capturing even more damning evidence. Marcus had waited 5 years because he wanted to be sure the statute of limitations for criminal charges hadn't passed, and he wanted to gather enough evidence to ensure justice. He had watched me during those months, saw how I never left Mom's side, saw how the others treated us both. He had been planning to come forward on the 5th anniversary, knowing it would have maximum impact. Within 48 hours, my family capitulated completely. Patricia had made it clear that criminal charges were imminent and the civil case would bankrupt them after legal fees. They agreed to all my terms. The settlement was swift and brutal. I received my original inheritance plus 5 years of interest, additional compensation for lost wages calculated from my teaching salary, plus the promotion I had lost, damages for emotional distress. The total was more money than I had ever imagined having. Michael's law license was suspended indefinitely. The Bar Association doesn't look kindly on attorneys who commit estate fraud, especially against their own family. His firm quietly let him go, not wanting the association with scandal. Jennifer filed for divorce within a month, taking the children and what remained of their assets after the settlement. Emma's situation deteriorated rapidly. David's divorce lawyer was ruthless, using the scandal to argue she was an unfit mother. She kept the children, but little else. The Hamptons house, the Range Rover, the designer wardrobe, all gone. She moved into a small apartment in Stamford, getting a job for the first time in her life as a receptionist in a dental office. Dad's business imploded when news of the scandal spread through Connecticut's financial community. Trust is everything in investment banking, and no one trusted a man who would defraud his dying wife. His partners bought him out for pennies on the dollar. The country club revoked his membership. He rattled around in that big empty house, all his society friends suddenly unavailable for golf or dinner. The house where we grew up, where Mom had tended her garden and baked cookies for the neighborhood, went on the market within 6 months. Dad couldn't afford the taxes and maintenance on his reduced income. Watching him pack up 50 years of memories into boxes was probably the closest thing to justice Mom would ever see. I used my inheritance wisely. First, I paid off all my debts from the caregiving period. Then I bought a small but comfortable house near the school where I had started teaching again. Not fancy, but mine with a garden where I could grow Mom's roses and a kitchen big enough for baking her recipes. I returned to teaching with financial security for the first time. No more 3 jobs, no more choosing between groceries and gas. I could focus on my students, buying supplies with my own money, taking continuing education courses to become a better educator. The principal who had held my position, hoping I would return, welcomed me back with tears in her eyes. But the most meaningful use of the money was establishing a real foundation in Mom's name. Not the tax shelter my family had planned, but a genuine nonprofit that provided financial support for caregivers. Small grants for those who had to leave jobs to care for dying parents. Respite care funding so caregivers could take breaks. Legal aid for those facing family financial abuse. Every grant application that came in reminded me of my own story. Teachers, nurses, social workers, ordinary people sacrificing everything to care for someone they loved, while family members who could afford to help found excuses. I funded as many as I could, knowing that somewhere Mom would be proud. 1 year after the memorial, that changed everything. I was standing in line at a grocery store when I saw Emma. She looked different, older, tired, in a way that had nothing to do with age and everything to do with life. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced with off-the-rack basics. Her perfect manicure was now bare, short nails. She was counting coupons. Our eyes met across the cereal aisle. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she abandoned her cart and walked over. "Grace," she said quietly, "can we talk?" "Please," I thought about walking away. I had every right to. But something in her face, a humility that had never been there before, made me nod. We went to the coffee shop next door, ordering simple coffees, no elaborate lattes or specialty drinks. "I know you hate me," she started. "I don't hate you, Emma. I nothing you. There's a difference." She flinched but continued. "I need you to know something. That night in the hospital, I knew it was wrong. I knew what we were doing to Mom, to you. But David said if I didn't go along with it, he would divorce me. He said I was nothing without his money, that I had no skills, no value beyond being his wife. And I was so scared of being poor that I betrayed the 2 people who actually loved me." "Fear of poverty doesn't justify what you did," I said simply. "No, it doesn't. But karma has a way of teaching lessons, doesn't it? Now I am poor, and you know what? It's not the worst thing. The worst thing was seeing my children look at me the way Mom looked at us that night. With disappointment. With the realization that their parent would choose money over morality." She pulled out her phone, showing me a photo. Her children were smiling, really smiling, not the forced poses from country club events. They were at a public park on regular playground equipment, wearing normal clothes. "They're happier now," she said. "Away from the pressure, the pretense, the constant competition. We have movie nights with popcorn on the couch instead of galas. They help me cook dinner instead of having staff. My daughter actually hugged me last week and said she was proud of me for working hard. I'm glad they're adjusting, I said, meaning it. They didn't choose any of this. Emma reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. I've been saving this for when I saw you. It's not much $20 a week from my paycheck, but it's something. For your foundation. For the caregivers. It won't undo what I did, but maybe it can help someone else avoid our mistakes. I took the envelope feeling the weight of what it represented. $20 to her now was worth more than the thousands she used to spend without thinking. I'll make sure it goes to someone who needs it, I promised. She stood to leave, then turned back. Michael's living with Dad now. Did you know that Jennifer took everything in the divorce? He's working as a paralegal at a small firm that didn't care about his suspension. Dad's health is failing, and Michael is his caregiver now. Funny how life works out. It wasn't funny, but it was fitting. Michael, who couldn't spare an hour for Mom during her illness, now trapped in the role I had filled, but without the love that had made it bearable for me. Take care, Emma, I said, and meant it. You too, Grace. And thank you for not completely destroying us. You could have pushed for criminal charges. We would have gone to prison. I agreed. But Mom wouldn't have wanted that. She would have wanted you to learn to grow to become better people. The jury's still out on whether that's happening. Emma nodded and left walking to her 10-year-old Honda, so different from the Range Rover she used to drive. I watched her go, feeling something I hadn't expected. Not forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever. But a kind of peace. I went to Mom's grave that afternoon. Not the family plot where she had originally been buried, but the peaceful garden cemetery where I had moved her after the settlement. She was under a willow tree now, with a view of a pond where ducks gathered. The headstone was simple but elegant, the way she would have wanted it. Linda Morrison, it read. Beloved mother, teacher of love, defender of truth. I sat on the bench I had installed nearby, telling her about the foundation, about the families we had helped, about the teacher who could stay with her dying father because of our grant, about the son who could afford hospice care for his mother because of our support. I told her about Emma's $20, about Michael's fall from grace, about Dad's isolation. I told her I had started dating someone, a fellow teacher, who understood that wealth wasn't measured in dollars but in impact. Someone who had held me when I finally cried for everything I had lost and gained. I told her about my students, how I could now afford to take them on field trips, buy books for my classroom library, provide supplies for those who couldn't afford them. How I was the teacher I had always wanted, to be free from financial stress, able to focus on what mattered. Most importantly, I told her I had forgiven her. Those final emails, her desperate attempts to protect me even while dying, had shown me that she had fought as hard as she could. She had been overpowered by greed and manipulation, but she had never stopped loving me. Her final words, calling me her angel, weren't just gratitude. They were an apology, a blessing, and a goodbye all at once. The sun was setting by the time I finished talking, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Mom's favorite time of day, when she would sit in her garden with a cup of tea watching the light fade. I stood to leave, touching the headstone gently. Thank you, Mom, I whispered. For the strength you gave me. For the love that sustained me. For the truth that freed me. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed with an email. Another grant application, another caregiver needing help. I smiled, knowing that Mom's legacy lived on. Not in the false foundation my family had planned, but in the real help we were providing to real people in their darkest hours. The anonymous email that had arrived that morning a year ago had changed everything. It had shattered my illusions about my family, but it had also freed me from their manipulation. It had cost me relationships I thought I needed, but it had given me the resources to build something meaningful. Most importantly, it had taught me that truth, no matter how painful, is always better than living a lie. That justice, even delayed, is worth fighting for, and that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all, but simply living well, honestly, and with purpose. The 5th anniversary of Mom's death had become something else entirely. Not a day of hollow performances and fake grief, but a day of reckoning of truth of transformation. The family that had gathered in that garden to perpetuate their deception had scattered to the winds, each facing the consequences of their choices. But I had found something better than family as defined by blood. I had found community with other caregivers who understood the sacrifice. I had found purpose in helping others avoid what I had suffered. I had found love with someone who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. The Linda Morrison Foundation had helped over 100 families in its first year. Each grant letter I signed, each thank you note I received, each story of someone able to be present for their loved one's final days without losing everything felt like a small victory for Mom. I kept one email from a grant recipient pinned to my office wall. It was from a young woman named Sarah, a teacher like me who had taken leave to care for her dying grandmother. The grant had allowed her to keep her apartment to be present without panic, to hold her grandmother's hand without checking her bank balance. She wrote, "You gave me the gift of being able to love without fear, to serve without sacrifice, to grieve without the added burden of financial ruin. That is the most profound kindness I have ever received." That letter summarized everything I hoped Mom would have wanted. Not the fake foundation my family had planned designed to generate tax breaks and social capital, but real help for real people facing real loss. Marcus, the security guard who had provided the video evidence, became a regular volunteer at the foundation. He had retired from the hospital but wanted to continue protecting vulnerable people. He reviewed applications, helped identify potential fraud, and shared his story at our fundraising events. He always ended his speeches the same way: evil thrives in darkness, but truth is the ultimate disinfectant. One day, about 18 months after the confrontation, I received a letter from Dad. His handwriting, once bold and confident, was shaky. The letter was short. "Grace, I am dying. Pancreatic cancer like your mother. Michael is my caregiver now, though he hates every minute of it. I wanted you to know that I understand now what we put you through, what we put Linda through. There is no forgiveness for what we did, and I'm not asking for it. I just wanted you to know that karma is real, and justice, though slow, is certain. Your mother would be proud of what you've become. I am too, though I have no right to that pride. When I die, everything I have left will go to your foundation. It's not much, but it's all I can do. Don't come to see me. Remember me as I was, before the greed consumed me, if you can remember that far back. Your father." I read the letter 3 times, then filed it away. I didn't go to see him. Not out of cruelty, but out of self-preservation. Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. Some betrayals cut too deep to heal. But I did accept his final donation to the foundation when it came 6 months later. The money helped 5 more caregivers. Mom would have appreciated the irony. Michael never recovered professionally. The scandal followed him everywhere, his name too tainted for any reputable firm to hire. He worked a series of low-level legal jobs, each one a reminder of what he had thrown away for money he never got to keep. Jennifer remarried quickly to another lawyer, and Michael's children grew up calling another man Dad. He sent me one email asking if I could intervene with Jennifer about visitation rights. I didn't respond. He had made his choices in that hospital room. Now he had to live with them. The ripples of that anonymous email continued to spread. The story had made local news, then regional, then was picked up by national outlets as an example of the elder abuse epidemic. I testified before a state committee about strengthening laws protecting dying patients from financial exploitation. Mom's story helped pass legislation requiring additional witnesses for major financial documents signed by terminally ill patients. The Linda Morrison Protection Act, they called it. Mom would have been embarrassed by the attention, but pleased by the protection it offered others. 3 years after that morning when my world turned upside down, I stood in my classroom teaching Romeo and Juliet to 8th graders. We were discussing family loyalty, the price of deception, the weight of truth. One student raised her hand. "Miss Morrison, do you think family is always supposed to love each other?" Even when they do bad things, I thought about the question, about the journey that had brought me here. Love and loyalty aren't the same thing, I said. You can love someone and still hold them accountable. You can be family by blood, but not by behavior. True family, the kind that matters, is defined by actions, not genetics. It's the people who show up when you need them, who value you for yourself, not what you can give them. Sometimes that's the family you're born into, and sometimes it's the family you choose. The student nodded, satisfied. The lesson continued. But I thought about that question for the rest of the day. About Mom, who had loved us all despite our different capacities for love in return. About the family I had lost and the community I had gained. About the price of truth and the cost of lies. That evening at the Foundation's annual fundraising gala, I told Mom's story one more time. The room was full of caregivers, social workers, healthcare providers, people who understood the toll of loving someone through their final journey. I played excerpts from the video, showed the emails shared the journey from betrayal to justice to purpose. But I ended with something different this time. A letter I had found while cleaning out Mom's things from the house before Dad sold it. It was dated a week before her diagnosis, tucked inside her recipe box next to the chocolate cake instructions. To my children, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. I want you to know that I see all of you clearly. Michael so driven, but so disconnected. Emma so dependent, but so capable of more. Robert so successful, but so empty. And Grace so giving, but so unable to receive. I worry about all of you for different reasons, but I worry about Grace the most because the world takes advantage of givers. If I get sick, really sick, Grace will be the one who stays. The others will find reasons to go. That's not a judgment, it's just truth. So I'm writing this to say, Grace, don't let them take advantage of your love. Your siblings measure worth in dollars, but you measure it in impact. Don't let them convince you their measurement matters more. If something happens to me, if things get complicated, remember that your worth isn't determined by what you sacrifice, but by what you build. Build something beautiful, my angel. Build something that helps others the way you've always helped me. And know that of all my children, you're the one who understood what I tried to teach about love. Love isn't grand gestures or expensive gifts. It's showing up when showing up is hard. It's choosing someone else's comfort over your own. It's 1,000 small sacrifices that add up to a life well lived. You already know this. I just wanted to make sure you knew I knew it too. The room was silent when I finished reading. Then the applause started, not for me, but for Mom, for her wisdom, for her foresight, for her love that transcended even death and betrayal. That night I realized that the anonymous email hadn't really turned my world upside down. It had turned it right side up. It had revealed what was already there, hidden beneath years of manipulation and false narratives. The truth had always existed. It just needed to be brought into the light. The next morning, exactly 3 years after receiving that email, I got another one. Same anonymous sender, though I now knew it was Marcus. This one had no video, no shocking revelations. Just a simple message. Your mother would be so proud of who you've become. Not because of what you've built, but because you didn't let bitterness destroy your kindness. You got justice without becoming cruel. You found truth without losing compassion. That's the rarest kind of strength. Keep building, Grace. The world needs more angels like you and your mother. I smiled, printed the email and tucked it into Mom's recipe box next to her letter. Then I went to my classroom, to my students, to the life I had built from the ashes of betrayal. The life Mom had wanted for me all along. That anonymous email 3 years ago had promised to turn my world upside down. It had delivered on that promise. But sometimes being turned upside down is the only way to finally see things clearly, to shake off the lies we've been living, to find the truth that sets us free. My name is Grace Morrison. I'm 37 now. I'm a teacher, a foundation director, a survivor of family betrayal, and my mother's daughter. 3 years ago, I thought I had lost everything. Now I know I found the only thing that mattered, the truth. And the truth, as painful as it was, as destructive as it seemed, had given me something priceless. It had given me freedom. Freedom from manipulation, from false obligations, from the exhausting performance of pretending a toxic family was loving. Freedom to build something real, something meaningful, something that would last longer than any inheritance. Mom used to say that we teach others how to treat us. For 29 years, I had taught my family that I would accept crumbs while they feast, that I would sacrifice while they prosper, that my love was free while theirs had a price tag. That anonymous email had been my graduation from that terrible education. Now I teach different lessons. To my students, I teach that their worth isn't measured by their bank accounts, but by their impact. To the caregivers we support, I teach that their sacrifice is seen and valued. To anyone who will listen, I teach that family betrayal is real, elder abuse is common, and fighting back is possible. But the most important lesson I've learned and now teach is this. Sometimes the greatest gift someone can give you is the truth, even when that truth destroys everything you thought you knew. Because only by seeing things as they really are can we build something better from the ruins. That anonymous email had been a gift disguised as a catastrophe. It had taken everything I thought I had and given me everything I actually needed. It had turned my world upside down, and in doing so, had finally set it right. So here's what I want to know from all of you watching. Have you ever discovered a family secret that changed everything? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and fighting for justice? What would you do if you found out the people who were supposed to love you the most had betrayed you when you were most vulnerable? Leave a comment below and share your story. If this story resonated with you, if you've been a caregiver who sacrificed everything, if you've been betrayed by family, or if you simply believe in justice, please hit that like button and subscribe. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone in their struggle. Together we can bring these hidden betrayals into the light and support each other through the aftermath. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember, you are worthy of respect, of fair treatment, of love that doesn't come with a price tag. Don't let anyone, not even family, especially not family, convince you otherwise. Stay strong. Seek truth and never apologize for standing up for yourself. Until next time, this is Grace reminding you that sometimes the best revenge is simply living your truth.